Hello everybody, welcome back to another edition of Camps Chats on the Farm. Hey, let's start out by saying, first of all, thank you guys for the support. Some of y'all have gotten some of the Coach Camp swag. If you're interested in that, hit me up. I know how to get it to you, right? I know a guy. Second thing, I don't know if y'all paid attention or not, but had my first formal speaking gig. Pretty awesome. Thank you, Memphis Fire Department. Look, that's what this thing's all about. Now let's jump into this week's topic, okay? So this week's topic is why the grind is so important. Why the grind is so important. And when you think about grinding something out, I want you to put this in any perspective you would like, whether it's going after a job, whether it's school, whether it's fitness and exercise, it doesn't matter what it is. At some point between A to Z, there becomes this difficult section, right? I'm gonna relate this to a few things real quick. That difficult part is where you have to face, should I keep going or is it time to throw the towel in? Have I went to a point where I can't go any further? That question usually looms in the back of our mind when the grind is at its toughest. And the thing I always go back to is, why did I start to begin with? So it doesn't matter what it is you're doing, if it's a job or if it's fitness, why did you start to begin with? Because if you found the value in starting, then the grind is worth it and it's important. Because I'm gonna promise you something. Anything you accomplish that did not require great effort, great sacrifice, I promise you, you're not gonna have the same appreciation. When you find a moment where you have made it to the end of something and you can look back and you can think to yourself, God, I remember how bad it was at this point. I remember how bad it was at that point, but now look at me. That's growth, man. That is important. The grind is important. I'm gonna put a few things into perspective. This semester right now that we're in, my AEMTs, as an example, are getting near the end. In December, they take their national test and they're done. From the last 2 weeks to now, it has been a grind, keeping up with their clinicals, keeping up with their notebooks, keeping up with their tests. It's a grind. You can see the wear and tear. They're having to go to clinicals. They're having to study for tests. They're having to work. They're having to keep up with their family. It is a grind. And many times they come to me and I can see that they are exhausted. But I promise them always this. You make it to the finish line. You look back. One, it's not going to seem as bad as it is in the moment. But then two, you're going to be very proud of yourself and realize that you're capable of a lot more than you probably would have given yourself credit for. I can think of a lot of times. We'll use Coach Camp real quick as an example. When I started out the journey of the idea that I wanted to be a motivational speaker, a public speaker, I had several friends that were concerned and they were just giving me their honest advice and honest thoughts. And they were saying, hey man, it's going to be tough. It's not easy. It's tough to break through. And I said, thank you. And yes, I don't want it easy. I don't want things to be easy. It's not that I'm not appreciative when something is easy, but I'm just saying, I never have finished something that was easy and thought, man, I did that. Never. It's always the toughest times that hit me right here. I'm going to give you one last example. And I want you to take this, and I want this to be some fuel and some fire for whatever goals you're going after. And maybe right now you're going through a tough time. Maybe right this second, you're actually finding yourself grinding. And that's important. And I want you to absorb it. Many of my marathons that stood out so much. And by the way, every marathon has its own unique challenges. Some are easier than others, whether it's the weather, whether it's the course, doesn't matter. There's always some ebb and flow to it. But one marathon stands out to me. And it was a perfect metaphor to life. And that was the Chicago Marathon. Going into the Chicago Marathon, I felt like I was prepared. I felt like I had done the training. My diet was on point. And I got into that race. And looking back on it, I realized where the wheels came off. Around mile 7 to mile 8, I started becoming very nauseous, extremely weak, just felt achy all over, I was very sick. And all of a sudden around mile 8 to 9, I started vomiting and I could not keep my head up. And it was beautiful weather. It was a beautiful day for a race. There was so much crowd support. It was a great race day. And so here I am feeling somewhat defeated by the idea that maybe I won't finish this race. And I'm going to tell you what I did. My overall goal was 26.2 miles. And I knew right now at mile 8 to mile 9, I was in the middle of a grind. So if I kept thinking about mile 26.2, it's real easy to throw the towel in and be like, that's too much. I can't go that far. That's too much. Instead, I started thinking about the next 10 feet. I started thinking about the next step. I consolidated my race down to pressing forward just a little more, just a little more. T.S. Eliot once said, only those who will risk going too far will ever know how far they can go. I took that to heart. I knew if I was going to fall out of that race, it was going to be because I had given everything that I had. The grind was going to be important to me. And I kept pressing forward. And suddenly, guess what? Mile 11 turned to mile 12. Mile 12 turned to mile 13. Before I knew it, I was at mile 25. You know what? At mile 25, suddenly the top of that mountain at 26.2 didn't seem so tough. I knew I was going to make it at 1.2. But you see, what was important was I didn't think about 26.2 when I was at mile 8 or 9. I just focused on what was right in front of me. I made things a little smaller. I knew the grind was going to be worth it. And when I crossed 26.2, that is probably my proudest marathon. It took me 6 hours and 22 minutes, the longest ever. But I finished it, and I finished it against great difficulties. That's what I want you to know. Right now, you may be going through some tough stuff. I don't know. Everybody has different things. But I promise you it's worth it. Keep fighting. If it was worth it to start, if it was worth it to go, keep fighting. The grind is so important. Hey, I hope this message helps some of you guys out there. I know right now some of you are going through it. I know you are. So just keep focused. Make it a smaller race. Next thing you know, you're crossing 26.2 miles. Hey, thank you guys for tuning in every week. Continue to like, continue to share, continue to get some swag. My name's Coach Camp, and as always, be good to one another.